Hi there and welcome to Olagold Academy. Now for today's class, we're considering a topic in biology which is plant cell. Now, what is a plant cell? Plant cells are eukaryotic cells enclosed by a cell wall. They are the basic structural and functional units of plants. Now take notes, plant cells are eukaryotic cells. Now we have two main cell types. We have the eukaryotic cells, which are the cells with a well-defined nucleus. And we also have what we call the prokaryotic cells, which are cells without a well-defined nucleus. These cells are possessed mainly by bacteria. So example of organisms that possess eukaryotic cells are plants and animals and some other microorganisms also. Alright, now so we said they are the basic structural and functional units of plants. As usual, cells are defined as the basic and structural units of life. And I explained more about cell being the structural and basic units of life in my video where I explained cell and its environment. During the introduction of that particular video lesson, I explained how we have cell as the basic and structural units of life, especially for animals. Alright, so we have the plant cell organelles. Now what we have here are plant cell organelles. Organelles are simply smaller organs that are mainly found within the cell. Some organelles are not within the cell, but just know that if we say organelles, organelles are smaller cells. We have organs of the body such as the hand, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and every other part of our body. Those are organs. We have organelles. Those organelles are smaller organs in our body. Example are found in the cell. Alright, so we'll be considering them one after the other. For number one, we have the cell wall. This right here is the cell wall. This is the cell wall here. This outer layer is referred to as the cell wall. Now, what is the cell wall? Cell wall is a rigid outer layer made up of cellulose. And this cellulose here is a kind of sugar. It's a kind of sugar. In chemistry class, we have sugar being taught. We have the glucose as a sugar. We have the fructose as a sugar. We have the cellulose as a sugar. We have the galactose as a sugar. So those sugars we always have OSE at the back. Alright, so cell walls are rigid outer layer made up of cellulose. They provide shape, support, and protection and prevent overexpansion of the cell. The cell wall is to provide shape, to provide support, provide overexpansion of the cell. Another thing you take note of about the cell wall is that the cell wall is what helps to keep turgor pressure or the firmness of the plants. The cell wall is what helps to keep the turgor pressure together with the central vacuole. The cell wall together with the central vacuole helps to keep turgor pressure or the firmness of the plant. Please take note of that. Number two, we have the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane is the thin selectively permeable membrane just inside the cell wall. Now this is the plasma membrane. Another name for the plasma membrane is also called the cell membrane. So we said the cell membrane or the plasma membrane is a thin, selectively permeable membrane just inside the cell. This selectively permeable membrane is just a kind of membrane that allows some, let me say, some substances, not all substances, to enter and leave the cell. Selectively permeable membrane means that that particular membrane or that particular substance selects what comes in and what goes out. Permeable membrane allows almost or anything to come in and go inside. That is a permeable membrane. A non-permeable membrane does not allow anything to go inside. Example, we have a glass, we have metals, they do not allow anything to go inside of them. And we have selectively permeable membrane. Example is our cell membrane or the plasma membrane. They allow water, they allow nutrients to enter and leave the cell. They do not allow any other organelles to enter and leave the cell. So they select what comes in and what goes out. Alright, number 3, we have the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid that fills the cell. It suspends organelles and also is a site for metabolic reactions. So this cytoplasm here is a fluid that fills the cell, that fills inside the cell. That is the cytoplasm. It fills inside the cell and it helps to suspend organelles, meaning that the organelles are able to float with the help of the cytoplasm. And this cytoplasm here works with the cytoskeleton for the organelles to maintain their fixed position, even though they float inside the cell. It helps them to maintain their fixed position. So the cytoplasm, with the help of the cytoskeleton, helps the organelles to maintain their fixed position. Just like you have maybe like a leaf floating on water, but if it's floating on water, it floats over and over and over and over. But in this case of the cell here, it is another case entirely. Though the organelles floats, but this cytoskeleton helps the organelles to maintain their fixed position. And this cytoskeleton consists of the microtubules and microfilaments. I repeat, cytoskeleton consists of microtubules, and microfilaments. So this cytoskeleton consists of these two. They work in hand with the cytoplasm for the organelles to maintain their fixed position. Alright, we also said that it is a site for metabolic reaction. This cytoplasm is a site for metabolic reaction. Now, if we say metabolic reaction, it has to do with the building up and the breaking down of molecules. And from metabolism, we are going to have what we refer to as the catabolism and the anabolism. Catabolism involves breaking down of larger molecules into smaller molecules, while anabolism involves building up smaller molecules into larger molecules. Now, for the catabolism, Catabolism, I said that it involves breaking down bigger molecules or larger molecules into smaller molecules. For example, we have glucose, we have glucose C6H12O6 with oxygen breaking down into carbon dioxide and water. So we have a bigger molecule breaking down to a smaller molecule. We call this a cellular respiration. Another example of catabolism is when we have protein breaking down into amino acid. Protein is a bigger molecule breaking down into amino acid, which is a smaller molecule, is an example of catabolism. Another example is when we have fats breaking down into fatty acids and glycerol. Well, fats is a bigger molecule. When these fats break down into fatty acid and glycerol, these are smaller molecules. So catabolism has to do with bigger molecules breaking down to smaller molecules. Alright, next one we are having is before then I'll talk on catabolism. Example for anabolism is when we have smaller molecules combining to form bigger molecules. An example is when we have carbon dioxide and water to form glucose. Another example is when we have amino acid combining to form proteins. Now, the combination of carbon dioxide and water to form glucose is what we refer to as photosynthesis. When we have carbon dioxide and water combining to form glucose, it's what we refer to as photosynthesis. When we have amino acid combining to form protein, we refer it to as protein synthesis. Another example of anabolism is when we have glycogen synthesis, because one thing we should understand is that anytime we eat starchy food or food that has carbohydrates, the food breaks down in our body to form glucose. Carbohydrates break down to form glucose. Now, at that moment, the body does not make use of all the entire glucose. The body stores the glucose in form of glycogen in the body. So when we are now feeling hunger, when we are feeling hungry, when we have not eaten, so it is that glycogen that breaks down to form glucose, which helps to energize our body until we eat again, until we refill that glycogen that has been broken down. Another example of anabolism is DNA synthesis. Is when we have the nucleotides combining to form the DNA. When we have the nucleotides combining to form the DNA, that is an example of anabolism. So I've explained what we refer to as metabolic reaction. I said metabolic reaction or metabolism has to do with both catabolism and anabolism. The combination of anabolism and catabolism is what we refer to as metabolism. Catabolism plus anabolism equal to metabolism. Alright, number 4 that we're having here is the nucleus. The nucleus is the control center of the cell. It contains DNA that regulates gene expression, and the full meaning of DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid. That is the full meaning of DNA. The D stands for deoxyribo. The N stands for nucleic and A stands for acid. So that is the function of the cell wall, the plasma membrane, the cytoplasm, and the nucleus. Now, number 5 that we're having here, number 5 is the nucleolus. Now, this nucleolus is responsible for the production of the ribosomal ribonucleic acid. Now, let me take this one off to explain the remaining organelles that we're having here. All right, number 5 now. Number 5 here is the nucleolus. It is the nucleolus. The nucleolus. Now, this is the nucleolus. The nucleolus is present inside the nucleus. It's present inside the nucleus. Now this nucleolus is responsible for the production of what we call the rRNA. I repeat, the nucleolus is responsible for the production of what we refer to as the rRNA, and the full meaning is the ribosomal ribonucleic acid. Now, this ribosomal ribonucleic acid is what this nucleolus produces. All right, this nucleolus produces ribosomal ribonucleic acid subunits. Now these subunits, remember, please pay attention. These ribosomal ribonucleic acid subunits are being produced from the nucleolus. Now, where is the nucleolus? The nucleolus is present inside the nucleus. Now, if you look up here, we see ribosome here. Now, this ribosomal ribonucleic acid, the subunits, when the nucleus produces them, they come out through the nuclear pores, the opening of the nucleus. The nucleus also has its own opening, just like the cell has its own opening. The nuclear pores is the opening of the nucleus. Now, these ribosomal subunits, this ribosomal ribonucleic acid subunits passes through the nuclear pores, outside of the nucleus and combine to form what we call the ribosome, which is an example, or let me say, is one of the organelle of the cell. This ribosomal ribonucleic acid subunits, after coming out from the nucleus through the nuclear pores, come out to form what we refer to as the ribosome. Now, what is the function of the ribosome? This ribosome is what brings amino acids together to form proteins. So we say that the ribosome is responsible for protein synthesis of the body or of the cell. So this ribosome is formed from the production of what we refer to as ribosomal ribonucleic acid subunits from the nucleolus. Please, let me re-explain. The nucleolus produces what? rRNA subunits. Now this rRNA subunits comes out from the nucleus, and when they are out, they form what? Ribosome, which is an organelle in the cell. Alright, number 6 now. Number six is the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now, this rough endoplasmic reticulum is what works hand in hand with the ribosome to synthesize proteins that are being used outside the cell. Some are being used by some organelles in the cell, which is the lysosome. So the lysosome, but some of the proteins produced by this ribosome and the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the protein they synthesize or the protein they produce are being used outside the cell. Some are being used to form what we refer to as our digestive enzymes. Some form our words. Some forms our digestive enzyme. As you can see here, this is the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now, on the rough endoplasmic reticulum, there are ribosomes on them. The ribosome, this is the smooth. On this one, there is no ribosome. But on these ones, there are ribosomes. Now, the ribosome on this endoplasmic reticulum, they work hand in hand to produce protein that are used outside the cell. And I mentioned that some protein they produce are being used to form the digestive enzymes. Some protein they produce are being used to form hormones that are sent for growth all over the body. Now, another thing I should explain is that this ribosome synthesizes protein. The protein that this ribosome produces on its own is used within the cell. I repeat, the proteins that the ribosome produces on its own, the proteins are being used within the cell. But the proteins that the ribosome produces with the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the protein they produce are being used outside the cell. Some of them are used by some organelles, but the protein they produce are mainly used outside the cell. And I mentioned that they form the digestive enzyme. They also form the hormones. Please take notes. So the protein that this ribosome produces on its own is being used within the cell. Please take note of that. Alright, that is the rough endoplasmic reticulum. It works hand in hand with the ribosome to synthesize proteins that are being used outside the cell. Alright, number 7 now. Number 7, we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. If we check the smooth ER or the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, this one has no ribosome attached to it. There are no ribosome here attached to it. Now this smooth endoplasmic reticulum its own work is to synthesize lipids. So this smooth ER is responsible mainly for the synthesis of lipids, and they also help to detoxify harmful substances. I repeat, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum helps to synthesize lipids and also helps to detoxify harmful substances. It helps to detoxify harmful substances. Now, number eight is the chloroplast. Number 8, we have the chloroplast. This chloroplast is the site for photosynthesis. The chloroplast is a site for photosynthesis. This chloroplast contains what we refer to as a chlorophyll. Now, this chlorophyll is what traps light and converts that light into chemical energy. It converts light energy into chemical energy. So I said that we have the chloroplast as the site for what? Photosynthesis. When we have carbon dioxide plus water to form glucose C6H12O6 plus oxygen. Now we have this one. We have sunlight. So these two, carbon dioxide and water, together with sunlight, are being used to produce glucose and oxygen. This oxygen is being given out to the surrounding, and that is what me and you breathe in. We breathe out carbon dioxide, and the leaf of plants traps the carbon dioxide from the air and also draws water from the roots up to the leaf, because the leaf is where photosynthesis takes place. Carbon dioxide from the air and water from the roots, both are present on the leaf of the plant. Now, during sunshine, the sunlight works together with these two substances to synthesize glucose. And that is the reason why it is best for a farmer to wet his plant in the morning when the sun is not that out. To wet his plant in the morning so that the plant can have enough water to draw to its leaf. And by that time, there will also be carbon dioxide being drawn to the leaf. Both carbon dioxide and water are present on the leaf. So when the sun shines, maybe in the afternoon or before afternoon, the sun helps to convert these two substances into glucose. That's the reason why it is not advisable to water plants in the afternoon, because the afternoon is a period when photosynthesis usually takes place. So it is advisable to water the plant in the morning so that both can be ready for the sunlight. So the sunlight now helps to convert these two into glucose with the production of oxygen, which is useful for we human beings. Alright, that's for number 8. Chloroplast contains chlorophyll, which helps to traps light, and converts that light energy into chemical energy known as the glucose here. All right, that is for number 8. For number 9 is the mitochondrion. Number 9, we have the mitochondrion. Now, this mitochondrion is a singular name. Mitochondria is plural. So, if we are relating to 2 or more, we use mitochondria. If we are relating to just one, refer to as mitochondrion. Now, what is the function of this mitochondrion? The mitochondrion is what helps to convert that glucose into energy, known as the ATP. Remember that this chloroplast has chlorophyll, and that chlorophyll helps to produce glucose. That glucose produced cannot be used immediately or as it is. So this mitochondrion is what helps to break down the glucose into energy, which is the ATP. And ATP, the full meaning of ATP is adenosine triphosphate. So this mitochondrion helps to break down that glucose into energy, which is the ATP. And the ATP is the full meaning is adenosine triphosphate. That is the full meaning of ATP. The chloroplast produces glucose. This mitochondrion helps to break down glucose into usable energy. And remember, all the metabolic activities in the cell requires energy. So those energy are being supplied by the mitochondria or the mitochondrion. This is the powerhouse of the cell. This mitochondrion is the energy supplying house for the cell. That is number 9. That is the mitochondrion. Number 10, we have the central vacuole. This central vacuole, Now, this central vacuole is a large filled sac that helps to store water, nutrients, pigments, and other needed substances for cell growth. This vacuole or this central vacuole contains nutrients, contains water, contains pigments, and other needed substances for the plant growth. And remember that I said earlier that this central vacuole also helps the plants to maintain turgor pressure, to maintain what we refer to as turgor pressure. And this turgor pressure is formed when the cell takes in water through what we refer to as the endosmosis. I've already explained that in the video of cell and its environment. I explained how the plant cell taking water to become turgid. So the plant cell taking water, and this water, some are at the cytoplasm, while most of them are being stored in the central vacuole to maintain turgor pressure. Turgor pressure is what helps the plant to stand firm. So this central vacuole is what helps the plant to maintain turgor pressure. It helps the plant to be firm, to stand firm. That is the work of the central vacuole. Alright, now the next one we are doing now, number 11 now. So let me take this side off. Alright, number 11, we have the Golgi apparatus. Number 11, we have the Golgi apparatus. Golgi apparatus. Now this Golgi apparatus, please listen attentively. This Golgi apparatus is what helps to modify sorts and packages proteins, lipids into vesicles for transport. I said that this Golgi apparatus is what helps to modify, sorts, and packages proteins, lipids into vesicles for transport. Now, what are vesicles? These vesicles are like small sac that contains proteins, lipids, and other nutrients that are being sent around the body. Now, imagine like an orange fruit. There is what we call the juice sac. I repeat, if you open an orange fruit, you slice and you open it, there is what we call the juice sac. Some tiny sac like this inside, like some tiny sac inside the orange. So in that tiny sac, you have the juice, the liquid for that particular orange. The same thing also, these proteins and lipids and some other nutrients are packed into vesicles, into tiny sacs for transport around the body. Remember I said that it modifies, sorts, and packages protein. What does this mean? What does modify mean? What does sorts mean? What does packages mean? Modifies protein, what does it mean? Sorts protein, what does it mean? Packages protein, what does it mean? Now, modifies protein and lipids by supplying them with the needed substances for their proper functioning in the body. So what happens is that, please listen attentively. The ribosome with the rough ER, which is the endoplasmic reticulum, the ribosome with the rough endoplasmic reticulum produces protein. Listen, produces protein. That protein they produce is being sent to the Golgi apparatus. The protein they produce is being sent to the Golgi apparatus. This Golgi apparatus is what will now help to modify the protein. And I explained that modify means it's supplying the proteins and the lipids with the necessary or the needed substances for proper functioning in the body. So the lipids from the smooth ER and the protein from the rough ER, both of them are being sent to the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus is what will now help to modify it, sort them for their various locations where they are needed. It sorts them for the various locations where they are needed, and now lastly it's now packaged the protein and lipids into vesicles, into tiny sacs for transport to where they will be used. That is the Golgi apparatus function. All right, number 11 now. Number 11. Right, number 12 now. Number 12 rather. Number 12, we have the ribosome. Number 12, we have the ribosome. And remember I said that the ribosome is what helps for protein synthesis, meaning that it combines amino acids together to form proteins. That is the work of the ribosome. Number 13 now. Number 13, we have the lysosome. We have the lysosome, also called the suicide bag. The suicide bag. This lysosome this lysosome also helps to detoxify harmful substances. I repeat, this lysosome also helps to detoxify harmful substances and helps to break down malfunctioning organelles. And does what? Also do what? Helps to break down malfunctioning organelles. And a process in which the lysosome releases hormones or enzymes to break down these organelles, though referred to as autophagy. Autophagy. So number 14 now. Number 14. Right. Number 14, we have the Plasmodesmata. We have the Plasmodesmata. As usual, this Plasmodesmata is what helps the proteins or waste products to move out of the cell. It is the opening of the cell. It is the opening of the cell that helps nutrients, water, carbon dioxide, oxygen to enter and leaves the cell through the opening, which is referred to as the plasmodesmata. That is the function of the plasmodesmata there. Number 15, we have the cytoskeleton. That is the last one. We have the cytoskeleton. And I've explained before that this cytoskeleton contains microtubules and microfilament. Microfilament. These microtubules and microfilaments, I repeat, these microtubules and microfilaments is what helps the organelles to maintain their fixed position. It works together with the cytoplasm for the organelles to maintain their fixed position. All right, let me do small revision. Let me do small revision. I said the cell wall is what helps to protect the cell, and helps to maintain the turgor pressure of the plant cell. So it prevents the plant cell from bursting if it takes in water. That is the reason why animal cell wish to burst if it take in water. I mean, too much water. But plant cell do not burst because it has the cell wall. The cell wall prevents or helps the plant from bursting. So if that particular plant takes in water, this cell wall is what prevents the plant cell from bursting. It helps the plant cell to be rigid, to stand firm. That's the work of the cell wall. Number two, we have the plasma membrane. This one helps to control what goes in and what goes out of the cell. That is the plasma membrane, also called cell membrane. Number three, we have the cytoplasm, and this one is the jelly-like fluid that is present inside the cell that suspends the organelles in the cell, or that helps the organelles in the cell to float on their fixed position with the help of the cytoskeleton. Number four, we have the nucleus. The nucleus, we said, is the control center of the cell. It is what controls every single activity that goes on in the cell. So the nucleus is the control center of the cell. It is what controls everything that happens in the cell. And number five, we have the nucleolus. And we said that the nucleolus is in the nucleus and it helps to produce what we refer to as the rRNA that combine together to form the ribosome. Alright, number six, we have the rough endoplasmic reticulum. This one is what helps to produce protein together with the ribosome to be used outside the cell. And some of the proteins produced are being used by some organelles in the cell also, which is example of the organelles that use the protein they produce is the lysosome. So this lysosome here also use some proteins that this rough ER and ribosome produces, while most of the protein they produce are being used outside the cell. Alright, number seven, we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. This one, I said that is responsible for the synthesis or the formation of lipids, and also helps to do what? Detoxify harmful substances. Alright, number eight, we have the chloroplast. I said that the chloroplast is what contains the chlorophyll that helps to trap light energy and convert it to what? Chemical energy, which is glucose. So this chloroplast is the site for photosynthesis. Number 9, we have the mitochondrion. And I see that this mitochondrion is what helps to break down the glucose produced by this chloroplast into usable energy, which is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. The glucose produced here is being converted to usable energy at this mitochondrion here. Number 10, we have the central vacuum. And I said that this central vacuum is what helps to maintain turbo pressure of the cell. Number 11, we have the Golgi apparatus. And I said that this Golgi apparatus is what helps to modify, sorts, and packages the protein from the rough and the lipids from the smooth into vesicles that can be used in the body. Number 12, we have the ribosome. And I said that this ribosome is what helps to synthesize protein. In other words, it combines amino acids together to form protein. Number 13, we have the lysosome. And I said that this lysosome is what helps to break down harmful substances. And also it helps to break down malfunctioning organelles of the cell. Number 14, we have the Plasmodesmata. And this one is the opening that nutrients, carbon dioxide, waste material, oxygen uses, or is the part in which they use to enter the cell and leaves the cell. That is the Plasmodesmata, is the opening where nutrients used to enter and leave the cell, and also waste products, oxygen, and so on and so forth. And lastly, which is number 15, we have the cytoskeleton. And I said that this one here works together with the cytoplasm to help maintain the position of the organelles of the cell. And I also said that cytoskeleton contains microtubules and microfilaments. Alright, we have come to the end of this video lesson. If you find this video lesson helpful, do well to hit the like button, subscribe, drop a comment on where you want more explanation, and I will try to read the comments and drop more explanation on where it is not clear. Do well to support this teaching by hitting the like button, subscribing, share, and also you can follow us on our TikTok at Olagood Academy. So thanks for watching. This is Olagood Academy. Thank you.